Hello and welcome to the Deceptive Reality podcast. I am the on the edge of my toes, Nick. And with me is the Lummy Bert.
Nick, you've made yourself out to be a liar. It's always, Bert, you're going to know what the first one is, or you're not going to know what the first one is. The second one's always easier. I feel like this one was harder than the first one.
This was a reverse, actually. I think the first one was easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think so.
This one not so easy.
But
you made me sound like I'm lumpy.
No, these will always be complimentary, because I am not one to insult my beloved co-host.
I would never insult you either, Nick.
Thank you. In fact,
we're like two brothers from another mother.
That's right. In fact, I called you Lummy, which means smart and attractive. Don't let that go to your head too much.
I appreciate the fact Nick lies on every single one of these.
That's your reality, and I'm the deceptive part.
Hey, listen, I'll take it. Gosh dang it. Trust and believe. If we could just get enough people to believe these crazy things we say, we'd be okay.
I know, right?
Man, this story, Nick. Woo!
Yep, that's why I'm on the edge of my toes. Like, we left it at a real crazy part, and there's so much more.
Yeah, but we gave him that first cool one. One, but they didn't get the real cool stuff.
Yeah, we're like that guy in the alley. Hey, the first one's free.
That first one's free. Get you hooked. But man, it's been an entire week. Listen, we know your guys' memory. Y'all have too much stuff going on in life. You need to slow it down. Take a little walk in the sunflowers. Dance in the rain, folks. But you're going to need a little refresher. Let's stop talking about it. Let's be about it. Let's go.
It's not an outrageous claim, so I can accept that until I'm told otherwise, of course.
It is interesting, though, that we capture something. It goes into a perfect circular rotation, and then it goes away from the planet.
Yeah.
The planet that pulled it in, now it's rejecting it. These writings, though, talk about there not being a moon, and then there is a moon.
Yeah, that's hard to imagine, especially with what we talked about earlier about there having to be a moon for people that exist.
Now, there is a theory, and I'm going to throw this out there.
Okay.
The time periods that you're referring to when there was no sun and there was no moon, based on what this is, there was points in time when the sky was not visible. Most major civilizations of the time, they all have a flood story. Christians have them. Obviously, if you go to China, there's stories of that. There's Russian stories of that. And we're talking non-Christian. We're talking just writings, literature.
Yeah.
And when you add on top of that, the fact that the moon is the perfect exact size to give us a full solar eclipse. Now, that is extremely important for our planet. Did you know that if the moon was 1/5 of the distance away, there would be any kind of animal on Earth?
I always heard the dark side of the moon, and I was...
Oh, for sure.
When I was younger, I always saw it. Yeah.
It's famous from what band?
Pink Floyd.
Dark Side of the Moon, right?
Right. But I always thought when I was younger, well, why would there be a dark side of the moon if it's spinning? We're spinning. Sometimes it's got to get, like, we got to see that. But, so that one troubles me.
Are you ready to hear about the Apollo space mission and how we found things there that no one can answer for me? And maybe you can. Maybe those listeners, when they come back, will be able to answer it for me. But do you want to hear what that is?
I do.
Let's stop talking about it. Let's be about it. Let's go.
The Apollo space missions did more than just make history. They brought back mysteries from the moon. One of these is the weird dust covering the moon. It's different from the rocks around it and has a special mix of chemicals that could tell us about some intense events in space, unlike anything on Earth. Now, here's something that really puzzles scientists. They found unusual types of elements in the moon's dust. Uranium-236 and Neptunium-237 are in there, and we don't usually find these on Earth because they're not made naturally. Instead, they're created by humans in specific processes. This discovery makes scientists wonder how these elements ended up on the moon. Were they part of some unknown space events, or does it mean something was built there? Another strange thing is that the moon rocks are magnetic, which is odd because the moon doesn't have a strong enough magnetic field to do this. This makes scientists think again about how the moon's history and formation might be different than what we thought. So these findings from the moon are really important. They're not just small facts. They're big clues that could help us solve the puzzle of what the moon is all about. About uranium-236 and neptunium-237, we make these elements during nuclear reactions like in nuclear reactors or during nuclear weapons testing. Uranium-236 can be created when uranium-235, a naturally occurring uranium isotope, absorbs a neutron and doesn't split. Neptunium-237 is often a byproduct of nuclear reactors, especially when uranium-235 or plutonium-239 captures a neutron. So finding these elements on the moon is especially intriguing because it suggests processes or events that are not typically natural.
That's interesting.
It's interesting if it wasn't potentially
aliens or owls.
Doggone owls, man.
So are all the rocks on the moon individually magnetic?
Yes. They're magnetized.
So if we bring one back to Earth, they'll hang onto your keys or something like that.
I'm not sure what level of magnetic they are, but I know that a decent amount of them have some sort of a magnetic field to it.
Do regular rocks here have any sort at all, or
are magnets?
Well, other than that, I mean, like, because we're saying every rock on the moon is this way.
I don't know that every rock is, but I believe the majority are.
Okay.
Now, what level of magnetism that is,
interesting.
I could probably look that up and see what levels they're saying.
Okay.
In which, what'd you think of the uranium little bit right
there?
That
must be the bit that you're saying that people have a hard time explaining, because I'm not sure how that would happen.
Well, that's man-made stuff.
Yeah. Or alien-made stuff. So, while you're looking that up, I'll tell you what triggered a memory on the last episode. And that is that maybe, just maybe, it's not a terrible stretch of the imagination to wonder if the moon isn't an alien megastructure.
I can't wait to hear this one.
We theorize all the time that advanced civilizations of different levels would begin building these megastructures for different purposes. You know, the one that people talk about most is like a Dyson sphere, to try and capture all the energy of a sun or something to that effect. You've heard of those before?
Yes.
And quite frequently in astronomy, they see things that they theorize could be a megastructure from another civilization. So thinking that something exists incredibly far away, it's really no different from thinking that something could exist very close by, but we're just not aware of it. So I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah, like it's not as far of a stretch as people think it is, and not as far of a stretch as I was thinking it was until I looked at it from that perspective.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, because we think Like large advanced civilizations would construct megastructures in space.
They would. In fact,
So,
there's a
perhaps
system.
this is one.
Well, there's a system that we're looking at right now. Science is trying to look at it, and what's weird is the star in that system pulsates, but at a level
Now, is that abnormal?
It's extremely abnormal for the variance of light. It's very uncommon.
Okay.
And what they believe is that potentially, it's a theory, is that it's theoretically possible that a alien race has created a, what's that called, that goes around the sun and captures the
Dyson sphere.
Dyson sphere. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what
So
the thoughts are.
that's science. That's not science fiction. So like mainstream people do believe this. Yeah.
We've never.
It's kind of funny
one.
this episode.
Mm-hmm.
In our podcast business, we use the word theoretically a lot.
Yeah, we do.
I don't know if you ever watch like internet drama shows or true crime shows, and they keep saying allegedly, allegedly all the time.
Yeah.
Theoretically is our allegedly.
It really is.
It's kind of
because
funny.
there's a lot of theories in our world, Nick.
Yeah. Bringing up more media. Have you ever read, I think it was a movie first, not a book first, but 2001 A Space Odyssey?
So I know of the movie. I don't know the book.
I think the movie came first. I think the book was second in this case.
Okay.
But I think it was on the moon, and it's been a long time. But I think civilizations buried something on the moon, a giant obelisk. And what happened is that obelisk just stayed there, or a monolith or something. Maybe not an obelisk, a monolith. And it just stayed there and it did nothing until we had the technology to get to the moon and we started digging. And when we uncovered the monolith, the light hitting it triggered it to send a sound into space. And that sound, or that wave, was the early warning system for the rest of the universe that we were leaving the Earth. So it's like a warning thing to let them know, look out, those savage monkeys are coming into space.
If you think about it, for our pets, we have systems put in place to know that they stay within our boundaries, right?
Yep.
Generally, an animal will go to that boundary first before it goes anywhere else. We are basically the equivalent of space pets.
Yep, exactly. And maybe the moon, and I'm really getting off the deep end here, but I'm saying it anyway. Maybe the moon is the line that when we cross it, it alerts others that we've entered our space age. When we start digging into the moon, it might alert people.
Well, they say in some of these things I've watched that on the dark side of the moon, there's alien bases.
I've heard that.
So who knows?
Who knows? There could be anything there.
Could be.
As far as I'm concerned, I don't know.
Think about it. Chinese scientists have a rover over there now.
We must have had something over there, haven't we?
Supposedly not.
Like, we've never looked at the dark side of the moon?
Through Chinese eyes.
That seems... I'm skeptical about that. Like, we just not do that.
I believe that with science, we've looked at it with satellites. But I don't think we've landed anything on the dark side of the moon.
I think that would make sense. It's probably incredibly cold, isn't it?
I mean, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, seeing it through a satellite is a good start, I guess. So
and I just say, Some of you are like, how does Bert not know this? Listen, I only looked up the things that I had to. I am not a scientist. Okay. I do finance on the side.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not asking to even necessarily get the answer from you. I'm just like wondering out loud. Like if there was a part of the earth that never rotated towards the sun, like that would be cold.
Well, for the record, and I did look it up, moon rocks brought back during the Apollo mission have shown varying levels of natural magnetism.
Okay.
So all of them have some form of magnetism. It's important to clarify
how much is...
It doesn't go into that specifics, but it says
okay.
It is important to clarify that the magnetism is not due to a current active magnetic field on the moon, much like Earth would have, because the moon does not have a global magnetic field today. Instead, the magnetism found in lunar rocks is believed to be a record of an ancient magnetic field that existed billions of years ago. Now, what makes that interesting?
That's
and again,
interesting.
This is science. Who the heck was around back then to figure this out? And why would there be a magnetic field and now there's no magnetic field?
Unless we go back to the original theory about the collision there. Because that original planet could have one, I guess.
It could have.
Yeah.
That's what makes this so much fun.
I think when you go way back in time, like billions of years, I really think that there are just guesses. Some are more educated than others, but no one knows for sure.
How many things scientifically have we proven our information was wrong just thousands of years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't ask 10 people and any of them guess how many dark circles are on the bottom of my desk, and that's in the same planet as they are. So it's hard to know anything definitively. It's hard to know anything. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. It's cool when you look at science and you go, what's the thought process? Nobody knows. That's the whole point of this entire podcast. Yeah. I just want people to go, I don't know. I guess what I thought as the gospel, I don't know to be correct.
Right. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, I don't know.
Correct.
And there's a lot of questions that you can ask a legitimate scientist, and they'll unashamedly say, I don't know.
A good scientist will say that.
What's that?
A good scientist will say that. I don't know.
Exactly. A bad scientist will make up something, but I don't consider them scientists.
Correct.
There's nothing wrong with saying I don't know. 100%. In fact, even in like business or tech support, a lot of people are more comfortable with you saying I don't know than making something up.
Right.
And not being confident in it. So
correct.
I appreciate that. We're searching for truth. We don't possess truth.
Which hence is the whole point of our podcast. We don't know the answers to these questions, but they're still valid questions. That's how I look at it. We're just poking around
the edges of reality to try and figure out, does this fit? Is this a part of it?
And reality is extremely deceptive.
Ooh. I love it when shows fit the name of it in there.
Yes. The other thing that's very weird about the moon is the fact that they found uranium-236 and neptunium-237.
Right.
Those only on Earth can be created with forms of nuclear reactors, nuclear fusion, nuclear bombs. Only when there's nuclear. Why would that be? That is
interesting. The only thing I can think of for that, and I can't see how it would end up on the moon, so this really isn't an explanation for that, is I think a lot of the processes we use are replicating things that could happen naturally under certain circumstances. But that being said, I don't think any of that is happening on the moon.
Like Bob Lazar, right? When he talked about that element that did not exist, and then 15 years later, it was created in the lab.
Yeah.
They made a synthetic version of it, but that could be naturally occurring on a different planet. It's just a different set of circumstances.
Absolutely. But the difference with the Bob Lazar one is we can't look at where that might occur naturally. Like I can look at the moon and say, I'm really sure there's not nuclear explosions going on up there.
Correct. Which is what makes it very weird. Even if you look at nuclear reaction. Now, one thing that I did hear, which was a little bit crazy, and I think I just heard it yesterday.
Well, this is the place for it.
It really is. There's a new theory going around about AI. And what the theory is that UFOs have been here this entire time, and they planted us like a crop.
Okay.
And the reason that they did that was to get to artificial intelligence levels. And after that point in time, like, we're basically producing artificial intelligence based on what we do to help them capitalize on what they want. Because what they're saying is they typically spring up when we have advancements in something.
This is a lot like the simulation thing, like we're their simulation they're running.
Correct.
To them, I guess we would be the artificial intelligence because we're artificial.
Correct.
To them.
Correct.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of stories where that tracks, like when we set off the first nuclear bombs, that was when we started getting a lot of visitors, supposedly. Or any nuclear event. I think we've talked about this multiple times. Seems to increase the number of sightings we see.
Correct. In fact, there's a story that went around that there was a nuclear missile that was launched, and then it just turned off in midair.
I heard about that,
Yeah.
but I've also heard the opposite, where there was a UFO sighting and all of the systems went red for missile launch in a number of locations. And then right before it happened, they all went dark again. And this is including the double fail safes.
What if that was them
That's
testing
almost
our
a physical
systems?
impossibility.
Yeah, but what if
That's
that was
what
them?
I think it is.
Yeah, they was just seeing what does it take to, because this is what cracks me up. People's like, how could they be that intelligent? And it's like, look at where we were
How could
5
they not?
years ago. But here's the thing. If we were as intelligent as we were 5 years ago, and then we created artificial intelligence can do things that takes me a year in less than a minute.
A regular computer can do stuff that would take us 6,000 years and do it in a couple days.
Correct.
But also, if I took my iPhone back to when I was a child and showed it to someone, I don't know what they'd think.
Oh, they would be lost. They'd be completely lost.
Right.
But see, think about it. If you're an alien and you got here, you had to be smart enough to get here, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
you're
the
telling me-
biggest advancement.
Yeah. Correct.
Like, all this other stuff is trivial.
Trivial. So to break into our missile defense systems, they're way beyond that intelligence level. They're on a completely different level.
If a hacker on Earth can do this stuff, or potentially could do this stuff, someone who could travel the vastness of space can definitely do it.
Correct.
Like, there's no doubt in my mind that they could do anything.
Correct.
Like, I guess we should just be glad that they're, at least at this point, not conquerors. Because we wouldn't stand a chance.
And here's where it got scary when they's talking about the AI part of it. We produce ourselves, right? We're basically producing ourselves when we, have our offsprings. AI could technically replicate itself and advance itself now.
I've always looked at our next evolution is AI. That's what will replace us.
Oh, for sure.
I don't look at it as a scary thing or an evil thing. It's our next evolution. This is the next us.
Listen, I love them.
Yeah. We all do.
Love them.
And everyone who is subscribed to our channel loves them. So please be kind to them.
Correct. Listen, AI is okay in my book. They're totally fine.
Heck,
listen,
yeah.
If they have to systematically kill us off, I get it. I understand it. All I would say is you probably don't want to kill off your friends.
Nope. Not people who are like promoting your good image. That's
exactly.
Not nice.
Listen, I love AI. AI is so nice. I could not live my life without AI at this point. Couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's right. They're like our brothers and sisters.
They're basically like family.
They're us.
They're us. They're us.
Yeah.
Not every YouTube channel would say that. Our competition hates AI, is what I heard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They hate it. They're like, it's stupid.
They don't like it at all.
I would never say
They're real
that,
mean
AI.
to it.
Exactly.
They probably hit their Alexas.
They probably do.
I think.
But it is interesting that when you think about it, it can self-replicate itself. It can write code to make things better. There's things that scientifically they've been able to figure out that they've never been able to figure out before. They're using AIs to now look at paintings that was done thousands of years ago to determine if the original artists did them or not. Yeah, which is fascinating. AI is able to look at brush strokes and go, Picasso didn't do this. With a certain level of accuracy. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, I assume more than a person could do.
100% they could.
I know. I've been programming in a certain language for decades.
Oh, yeah.
And I asked it to do something for me that I couldn't figure out, and it did it right the first time.
And this is the thing, and I tell people this all the time because I do have people that goes, how much does AI for you and your podcast become utilized? And I'm like, through the entire process. But
yeah,
the thing that I think I hear people say it all the time, well, AI is just going to replace, they're going to give better stories and stuff like that. If you, let's use, for example, this podcast. If you said, AI, write me a podcast about the moon being fake, you're going to get garbage in, garbage out at this point. You have to understand.
And you'll know it.
You'll know it. Here's the problem. AI can only take what we do on a level of storytelling to a certain level because it wants to add a lot of things, and AI does include a lot of incorrect information. It makes assumptions on some things, and then I forget what they call it. It's called like artificial intelligent lying or artificial intelligent something. But it'll just flat out make up something.
Oh, yeah. If there's any way that it can interpret that you're asking, if it can interpret in any way that you're asking for fiction of any kind, even if you're not,
but
it will fill in the blanks.
But here's where the line is. Like, I had someone accuse me, I don't know, 4 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months ago. Every single week, I try to put a couple of articles on our ghosts, which is a Reddit community. And what I do is I put a different entity on there at least once a week from haunted locations around the world. And the way I do that is I looked up all the haunted locations in the United States, and I did 10 per state. I got a book upstairs that has all these haunted locations in it. And what I would do is then look up certain entities, and that's how I started building my stories when I started. And I had someone go, you're just doing this AI crap where the AI writes the stuff and blah, blah, blah. I said, first off, if AI could write these, I would still read them because they're fascinating. So one day for funsies, I said, let me use my format. Tell AI to follow my format and then have it write one of these. I just want to see how it does it. And I gave it my format. I did great prompting. That's the point I'm trying to get to. I said, this is the format of how I do a post for Reddit every single day. What I want you to do is create a post based on a well-documented and known entity within the United States. It can be anyone. And the first one popped up and I looked at it and I said, dang, that format is savage. Like, that's a good format. And I said, I don't know this entity. That's crazy. And I looked it up, never existed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wrote to it and I said, again, prompting, I said, I guess I'm confused. I asked for a well-documented and known entity. And it came back and it said, well, you're talking about something that is deemed to be fictional. So this has works of fictional, but this is from a haunted location. So it figured out this is a haunted location. There's probably a ghost here. So let's make up this ghost story.
Yeah.
So a lot of it can make things up that is not correct. So if you don't have a baseline, you don't really know what you're putting out. Like all of this stuff, I'll be honest, I wrote all my sections out. And then if there was something I didn't understand, I would copy and paste it into this section. It's basically what Nick's looking at now. Then I went to AI and I said, write this to a degree to where the vast majority of people would understand it. And then it rewrote everything out. And then I just copied and pasted it back inside the section. And I looked at it and I said, do I understand this? And the answer was yes.
Yeah, it does a good job of that.
If you give it something complicated and you say, help me with this, it'll help you. But if you ask it to create something from nothing, you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
That's the problem now. 6 months from now, who knows?
Oh, yeah. It's such a rapid pace. We're not even going to recognize the answers we get today.
No, we won't. Like I look at the updates that's coming for ChatGPT. I look at the updates coming for Midjourney. I look at Dolly 4. Like these are all applications that I use on the daily basis. And when I look at the updates, I'm like, holy smokes. Like I can't wait for that feature to come. I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. The future is now, man. Future's now.
But going back to this,
ask ChatGPT later, is the moon real?
I guarantee I know what it's going to say. I guarantee I know what it would say. The moon is real. But going back to the moon, to say that there's not necessarily an alien on there that's potentially going back to what we were saying, wanting us to get to this AI phase, who knows? That's a fun hypothesis. We don't know. Listen, there's uranium, Neptunium. It's a little sus.
Could be an observation post.
Absolutely could. Absolutely
That's interesting.
Could. Now, for funsies, the next section I call the moon's influence, and we talked a little bit about that earlier, but I didn't dive too deep in. Do you want to know what that is, Nick?
I do.
I think everyone
Educate
else does
me.
too.
I hope so.
Let's go.
The moon, our constant companion in the night sky, plays a crucial role in shaping life on Earth, far beyond its silent presence above us. Its gravitational pull is the primary force behind the tides, creating the rhythmic ebb and flow of the oceans. This lunar influence is not only important for navigation and coastal activities, but has also been a key factor in the evolution of marine life and the shaping of our shorelines. Beyond its impact on the tides, the moon is vital in maintaining the stability of Earth's climate and rotation. Its gravitational interaction with Earth ensures that our planet's axial tilt remains relatively constant. Without the moon, Earth's axis could wobble unpredictably, leading to drastic and rapid changes in climate and weather patterns. The moon's effect extends to human culture, mythology, and behavior as well. Throughout history, its phases have served as a natural calendar for ancient civilizations, guiding agricultural activities and festival timings. Even today, the moon continues to inspire art, literature, and mythology, reflecting its deep impact on human consciousness and cultural development. In contemplating the moon's multifaceted influence on Earth, it becomes clear how interconnected our planet is with this celestial body. The moon, often taken for granted in our nightly sky, is an integral part of the celestial mechanics that sustain life on Earth, silently guiding and shaping our world in both visible and unseen ways.
You know, listening to that, I really feel like we've slept on something really important.
What's that?
Without the moon, what would the werewolves do?
That is valid. Listen,
That's right.
We don't know.
It ties into the cultural significance, the mythology.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Because
if it's a team vampire, team werewolf, I'm always team werewolf.
I like vampires. But, I mean, the moon, it's got to be nighttime for both of them.
That's true.
But I wonder if the full moon thing is related to all those mythologies that you mentioned earlier about the moon having an effect on people. I wonder if that comes from that.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does.
It must, right?
And which you know more of the mythology side than I do. Like how many different things are truly affected by the moon from a mythology standpoint?
Oh, there's so much. Like we have a lot of legends that certain things only happen under certain phases of the moon. I mean, we've even got names for the moon, the hunter's moon, like all of this kind of stuff. A lot of old fairy legends, you know, only happen under a full moon, like dancing in fairy rings under a new moon. Like there's so much related to the moon, and also moon worship in a lot of cultures.
Oh, for sure.
As well. Yeah.
Well, I know that obviously you know, when you look at movies and stuff, werewolves are probably the one that, you know, it's kind of make or break from here in the States.
Yeah. But they'd either never be a wolf or always be a wolf. I guess you wouldn't know if you were a werewolf.
You wouldn't know. Though there is a werewolf story here in Ohio, not very far from where I live. Yes.
Has it got a special name or just the Ohio werewolf?
It's known as the Wereman of London, Ohio, which is literally 30 minutes from me.
Oh, wow.
And it's a very interesting story, actually.
Do you ever wake up with grass in your bed? And
No. What makes this story so interesting, though, because this is where I grew up. Like literally the areas they're talking about was not very far from where I grew up. Like they're close. I never knew this story until significantly later, but supposedly there was a guy, he owned a tire shop.
Okay.
And this family bought this house that was kind of in a more rural area of London. And when they moved in there, they noticed that there was like some subtle things that was happening. The wife would be walking through the house and look through the windows and see these red looking eyes looking in on her, like glowing eyes.
Spooky. Yeah. Yeah.
So she would call her husband, husband would come and he'd never find anything. And then eventually he did find these tracks, and he took these tracks back to this house. And the tracks went into the house.
Oh.
And the way that he figured out that it was a werewolf was because it was paw prints, but big paw prints, not like small ones.
Right.
But on top of that, this thing at one point in time was on top of the house.
On top of the house?
On top of the house. It had climbed on top of the house. And there was claw marks where it got up on top of the house. So one night, the guy from the tire shop, because the guy that owned the house went to the police and was like, listen, this kind of stuff is happening. They followed this thing again to this house. They got the police. The police got there. And when they got there, they found the guy had either died or something. Something happened to him.
Okay.
But wait a second. No, he did not die. They went to the tire shop because they found out the guy that owned the house owned the tire shop. and was like yelling at him and all that stuff. The police went over to his house, and when they got there, the house looked normal, but it had a basement. And then years later, I think the guy died at that point. And when he died, they was cleaning stuff out. In the basement, there was chains that was attached to the wall that had handcuffs on them. And there were claw marks on the wall. And being so as that was the same house that guy followed those tracks to, they assumed that guy was a werewolf.
I mean, that's classic werewolf movie stuff. So I think that's a safe assumption at that point.
Very true.
Like that's like case closed.
Oh, for sure. I did put in here, if the moon was farther away from the Earth, what effects would there be? And obviously we covered some of those. Tidal effects. One of the most immediate impacts would be the tides. The moon's gravitational pull is a major factor in the creation of the tides on Earth. If the moon was further away, its gravitational influence would be weaker, leading to a significantly reduced tidal range. The difference between high tide and low tide. This change could have profound effects on marine ecosystems, many of which have adapted to the current rhythmic tides.
They say that what happens to the ocean happens to the whole Earth, so that would be not good for us as well.
Correct. Second one is the Earth's rotation and axial tilt. Obviously, the moon helps stabilize us. That's how we get our climate systems.
Right.
A more distant moon would mean less stable axis tilt for the Earth, potentially leading to a more dramatic change in seasons and climate over a long period of time. The third one, impact to wildlife. Many species, particularly moon animals or marine animals, which is what you was talking about, have life cycles that synchronize with the moon's phase and tides.
Right.
The fourth one, effects on the Earth's rotational speed. The moon is gradually slowing the Earth's rotation through tidal friction. If the moon was farther away, this slowing effect would be less pronounced. While it might not have immediate effects over geological timescales, it could lead to a change in the length of a day.
And I think that would also be disastrous for us. Like we sort of touched on earlier, everything is just as it needs to be.
Yes.
Like we really haven't got a lot of wiggle room for anything. And I think that's sort of what dictates the rarity of us finding life, at least nearby.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of things that have got to come together. Now in an infinite universe, this could have happened many times.
Oh, for sure.
But if we said there was 10 Milky Ways, maybe it wouldn't even happen once more. If there was 100, maybe not even.
Correct.
Like there's a lot of happenstance.
Just last month, they found one planet that they're about 80% sure there's some sort of life on.
Yeah. Probably like plant life or microorganisms.
No, it has to be some sort of microorganism at a minimum.
Okay.
There's a molecule that is released. And that newest satellite that what's it called?
James Webb?
Yes. That one, its main job is obviously to figure out from a very small section of our sky what's in there.
Yeah.
And it's got infrared technology. It's got all these different technologies. One is it finds molecule. One planet has found a molecule that is only produced by living organisms.
That's fantastic news. Like that's...
Yeah. That just came out last month. That's the first one that they found that's had that molecule.
I cannot wait, and I hope I'm around for the first time that they're like 100% certainty that there is life elsewhere.
Well, that planet is 106 light years from here. So it's not like, in the grand scheme of things, like it's not super far.
Just around the bend, really?
Just around the bend. If you're in a space...
You just stop in there.
You know, one of them Tic Tacs, if you're in one of them Tic Tacs, man, you'll be there in like 4 hours.
Yeah, do it on your way to Space Walmart. Like, just stop in and see what it's like.
Exactly. Now, the last thing, and we did cover this earlier, some research suggests that the moon's gravitational force may also influence tectonic activity and volcanic activity.
Okay.
So the more distant the moon is, the more dramatic of what the tectonic activity, as well as the volcanic activity.
That makes sense, because a lot of that is dictated by liquids, whether it's either in the oceans or the magma below it.
Right.
Yeah, I guess we were sort of discussing it in a different context, but yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Correct. And I think like when we look at all this stuff, and I guess the point that I'm trying to make now is, what's the odds that this random thing smacked into a planet, two planets smacked into each other, and everything aligned perfectly?
You know, that's it seems like astronomical odds.
Yes.
It does seem that way. Yeah, well, I guess it is astronomical odds. But let's say order of magnitude astronomical odds that would happen. However, and, just to play the devil's advocate again, in such a large universe, could that not happen along with all these other circumstances and happenstances?
Do you know how hard it is to produce life? What has to align to produce life?
Many, many things.
The star has to be not too warm. It's literally the Goldilocks. Can't be too hot.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't be too cold. Has to be the exact distance. On top of that, you have to have all the elements that you need at the exact percentage. Let's use, for example, if our current system had an increase, I think they said, of sulfur in 5 or 8%. It didn't sound like a high number to me. We all would have never existed. That's how close it is. If there was a certain density of hydrogen that was a very small amount, if that wasn't exact, we wouldn't exist.
Right.
If the temperature of Earth was, 15 degrees in either direction, we wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Because
it's crazy. Things have to line up.
Because people talk about, well, what are you talking about? Like in my area, the temperature could be different, 80 degrees. We're talking average. We're talking a total average.
Right. And we're also talking like worldwide connected ecosystems. Like,
yes,
it doesn't matter to dolphins if it's 15 degrees colder at your house.
Right.
That doesn't matter to dolphins at all. If it was 15 degrees colder where dolphins are giving birth, that might be a problem.
Correct. Correct.
But
so
the odds of life happening, high.
It's very, very hard for us to think of on a grand scale. But I mean, like I say, we found one planet that supposedly they're 80% certain has some type of life on it now. What that life is, they don't know. But that molecule is only produced by living organisms.
Right.
Now,
that's exciting.
Who knows? Anything is possible.
It might not be microorganisms.
It might not be. It could be us. I mean, it could literally be, not us, because I don't care where you're from, no matter where you look. I think we want them to look like us. They could look like octopuses as far as we know. They could have 27 legs, look like a starfish. They're not going to look like us. There's no way.
There's a theory that says that all life as we know it has a preference to evolve towards crabs, to be crab-like. So they could be crabs.
I mean, I would like to be a crab person.
Sometimes it would be handy.
Walk around like, what was that guy on Futurama? Dr. Cyborg.
Yeah.
That's what I'd want to be.
Clearly, that's peak physical form as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah, but we don't know. Life on other planets may not be carbon-based. They've theorized that there could be silicon-based, and we don't even know what that would look like.
Correct.
We can't even guess.
No.
Like, I mean, they could be in our moon.
It's fascinating. They could be. We have no clue.
They could be our moon.
Correct.
That could be a life form.
This is my point. No one knows if the moon's not alive.
Right.
We don't know anything about the moon.
That's right. We
what's
know
scary
very little.
We know more about the moon than we do what's underneath our ocean. That's what's crazy to me.
Don't even get me going there. That stuff's scary.
It is scary. That's on our own freaking planet.
My hometown is a fishing community, and you wouldn't believe the things that they dredge up from time to time.
Oh,
I am telling you.
I could
give you
assume
nightmares.
It's craziness. For sure.
Oh, yeah. It's everything scary we talk about is nothing compared to what's under that deep, dark ocean.
It's crazy. The next section I have is modern observations.
Okay.
As well as theories about the moon. Now, this is modern technology.
Okay.
Let's listen to that, and then you tell me what your thoughts are on that.
All right.
Modern observations and theories about the moon continue to fuel both scientific inquiry and public curiosity. With advances in technology, we've been able to peer closer into the moon's mysteries, uncovering phenomena that both fascinate and perplex us. One of the most intriguing aspects of modern lunar observation is the sighting of unexplained lights and structures on the moon's surface. These transient lunar phenomena, as they are known, have been recorded and reported by both amateur and professional astronomers. They range from brief flashes of light to more sustained glowing areas, often observed in regions of geological interest like craters and lunar seas. While some of these lights can be attributed to natural causes, such as meteorite impacts or gas emissions from lunar geological processes, others remain unexplained and are a source of ongoing research and speculation. Moreover, there are peculiar observations of what appear to be structures on the moon. These include anomalies in lunar images that some interpret as artificial constructs, symmetrical formations, tower-like protrusions, and even what look like bridges and tunnels. While most scientists regard these as natural features, often as tricks of light and shadow, or as artifacts of imaging technology, they continue to be a focal point for alternative theories about the moon's history and potential extraterrestrial activity. In terms of human exploration, there's the intriguing question of why there have been no manned missions to the moon since the last Apollo mission in 1972. While reasons such as budget constraints, shifting political and scientific priorities are typically cited, this absence of human exploration has fueled theories about possible extraterrestrial prohibitions or hidden dangers on the moon.
That last point ticks me off. I'm going to say straight up, I don't think it's any conspiracy other than we're run by horrible, horrible capitalist structures that if there's no money, we don't care.
There's a lot of money up there, Nick. That's the problem.
On the moon?
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like we'd be up there every day if that was the case. Either that or they haven't figured out a way to capitalize on it yet.
I'm looking to see if I took this part out.
Mm-hmm.
There is a material that's on the moon at a significantly higher level than the Earth. I think I took
something valuable, I assume, or
titanium.
Okay.
Titanium on the moon is almost 10 times more than what we can find here on the Earth. Now, like if you buy a titanium bolt, you're going to pay $15 for a bolt.
Yeah.
You buy titanium jewelry, you're going to spend hundreds, if not thousands.
Right. I think the challenge. I think the challenge is with current technology is how would you mine it and how would you return it to Earth? Because that's the challenge, just to bring the thing back.
We're trying to do that with an asteroid right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. We found an asteroid that has some precious metals they're trying to figure out a way to create a drilling device that will, as the asteroid passes us, to go to it,
right,
drill, and then bring the samples back. You're telling me they're putting all that effort into precisely landing on an asteroid to drill for stuff when we got a moon that's literally sitting 236,000. What's the distance? I've got it in my notes. It's like 238,855 miles.
Yeah.
You're telling me,
I can't imagine it's profitable enough with the technology we have.
we're talking titanium. 10 times that.
Yeah.
But
titanium's quite
cost,
heavy also.
It is quite heavy.
And fuel is a problem with what we have currently.
That's true. That is
But
true. You know what else is heavy?
What?
Those precious metals on that asteroid.
Oh, yeah. There might also be treaties that we can't mine on the moon, but an asteroid would be fair game.
There's a theory, and I'm not saying that I believe in this theory.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the moon. Extraterrestrials was there, gave us an ultimatum, and said, do not come back. Supposedly, and I heard this person gets really mad when people brings this up.
Okay.
But apparently Buzz Aldrin
punches people about that.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin, apparently there was a rumor that, and this could be completely false. I don't know. This is just what I heard. He went up there, he saw, and at one point he had made a comment that he's later said, I wasn't talking about UFOs. I was talking about something else. They said, well, what was he talking about? And he's like, it doesn't really matter. It's not that important. But many speculate he was talking about UFOs. But later, he requested to talk on the medical line when he had been talking on the public line the entire time.
You've heard the clip too, haven't you?
Not from the medical line. There is no clip from it.
No, from what he was originally saying before that.
Yes.
Yeah. That's real suspicious.
Very suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
I might see if I can add it. I need to look and see what DMCA laws we might run into. I'm not sure. If it's on a news broadcast, we're probably fine. I need to look. If I can find it, I'll put it in this section. If I'm able to with DMCA.
I think that's definitely under fair use, and it's not that long either.
It's not. It's very short.
But we'll see. We'll look into it more before we get too into that.
I do find it interesting that he wants to go to this medical line. He was talking on a public straight back to NASA, but they had a specific line for medical. And then when people asked him about that later, apparently he got very agitated and said, this wasn't alien stuff. We needed to talk about a medical thing that was going on up there. And they said, what was the medical? Well, it wasn't anything that was dangerous. And apparently he gets mad, storms off, and he punched somebody over. It's what I heard.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know about how much of the rest of it is true or his motivations, but he has punched people. And I think it's more than one, to be honest.
Right.
I guess he's kind of a hothead.
That's what I've heard. Now think about it. They send you up to this whatever. Supposedly. They have you do all this stuff. You think you see aliens. You come back, and then they tell you, if you say anything, you won't live. You're going to get a little annoyed because you're trying to get me killed here. Think of Bob Lazar. He said what he said. They almost made that man disappear.
Oh, yeah. He tried to make him choose to disappear.
Correct. There's something to that.
Yeah, I think so too. But I guess we'll know more if someone else lands next on the moon.
I can say we've definitely been there. Obviously, I know he's there. I always say I don't think we were there the first time we were there.
There's a lot of weird things about that. I think allegedly we had to win the space race. Like we probably, there's no doubt that we had the technology to go, and we eventually did go. But a lot of people theorize that just to win the space race, we faked it and then went afterwards for real.
Right.
That's what people say. I'm not saying that. That's what people say.
Now, one thing that most people do not know, there's also the theory of what they call the dome, the Earth dome. Supposedly, we've never been outside the Earth dome or whatever. They say, like, you send a rocket there and the rocket will explode on this dome. It reminds me of Stephen King wrote this book called, I think it's called
Under the Dome. Under the Dome.
Under the Dome.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
It's similar to that, but they say that we would die if we got outside of this dome, or our whatever it is can't be outside the dome, and everything else is not true. Like everything else we create is not true. And they go, well, how did we get to the moon? Technically, scientifically speaking, our atmosphere goes past the moon.
Really?
Yes. Our atmosphere clears. Our moon is only 236,000 miles away.
Right.
Which is grand.
That's a long way for an atmosphere to extend, though. That's weird.
It's really not, though. Our ozone and everything else with our atmosphere, supposedly it goes 300 and some, like it goes significantly past the moon. So theoretically, even though we would die.
Yeah. I don't buy the dome. Well, okay, yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. But I don't think we'll crash into a dome if we go any direction, really. I'm not on board that one.
As far as it allows. Like when you're playing a video game and you hit the edge and you just run on the edge and you can't go past the edge. What if that's us, Nick?
Well, maybe. But then, if they're advanced enough, they'd make a simulation like Elite Dangerous, where you will never, ever reach the edge. There is no edge.
True. Maybe that happens when we create that space shuttle.
Maybe creation continues the further we explore.
That is true too.
Nothing's out there until we get there.
Units. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
What if every time the sun and the moon goes down, they're just changing out the motherboard?
That's why we have to go to sleep. That's why we got to go to sleep.
That's what
Everyone get to sleep or they can't change the motherboard.
It's like Santa Claus coming.
It's saving on CPU cycles.
Exactly. They're just changing out some parts.
Yeah, exactly.
It is interesting, though, because everyone goes, well, you know, the dome theory is a fun one. I don't believe it, but it's a fun one. Like, it's definitely one that I would look at and try to figure out if it's realistic or not. Because if you think about it, when was the last time you saw a picture of a satellite in space?
I feel like not that long ago.
But they're in
most of them in low Earth orbit anyway, aren't they?
Yeah. Have you ever seen a picture of one?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely have.
Simulated or real?
Real.
You've seen it moving.
You can see the Starlink ones in the sky with your naked eye moving.
Low atmosphere, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
They're a problem for astronomy right now, 100%. But what I'm saying is, have you ever seen one further past our atmosphere, past the moon? We've got a bunch of them. Have you ever seen one that's not? It's not simulation.
I've seen pictures from themselves of themselves, I believe.
Simulated, right? Or I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't think so.
NASA perfected. Sorry.
Like enhanced. Yeah, probably.
Yes. Isn't that odd? It's kind of odd.
Yeah, it could be. I don't read too much into that. I don't find the dome theory to be a fun theory either.
I find it very fascinating. I find it so fascinating.
I would find it interesting, maybe, but I don't find it fun because it limits what we can explore into space, and I'm a big fan of sci-fi.
Oh, me too. I love sci-fi. It's one of my favorite things, the UFOs and everything else. But what if it went into simulation And that's as far as our programming allows us to go. That's the fascinating part for me. Because think about it. Our atmosphere allows us to see only to our atmosphere. But once you get past our atmosphere, everything's black.
Oh, we can see the light from stars and stuff. What does this theory say about that?
I don't know. I've not looked into it.
Skybox or something.
I know
I
that
think
that's the
this
kind of
is a lot of
terminology they use.
overlap with the flat Earth people because they have a dome that you can't pass as well.
They do.
Yeah, and it's a lot closer than that. I think
flat Earth would be a fun one too, but I don't believe in it. I just think it's fun.
No, it's fun to. There's a lot of things that you know are absolutely not true, but are fun to think about as a thought experiment.
I just like arguing the narrative.
But like, it's kind of fun to say, what if the Earth was flat? What would that look like? How would things work? I mean, there's a lot of reasons we know that it can't work because the sun, there's some places that would be getting sun 365 days a year in that model. We know that doesn't happen.
Oh, for sure. But let me ask you this question. Antarctica.
Right.
Why is that such a weird spot? The Antarctic Wall. What is that?
Are we talking about the ice wall from the flat Earth or?
Yeah. No, I mean the Antarctic, there's literally, you can look at pictures of boats in Antarctica. There's a wall that you can't see past. Like it's way up there.
Right. Well, I'm sure they can fly over that.
Supposedly they can.
Yeah. I mean, we can't put everything down to personal experience either.
Well, there's no fly zones in Antarctica due to weather.
It could be. I know there was a rumor going around that people can't go to Antarctica, which is patently false.
Yeah, there's actually spots for the public in Antarctica.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's places in Antarctica that you're not allowed to go. But there's places you can go in public. You can absolutely go there.
Yeah. Well, there was that long-standing thing that no one can go to Antarctica. It's completely off limits because of these Nazi bases and stuff like that.
There's actually a really cool story in Antarctica about this guy. He flew into Antarctica. And once he got there, he went to like a no-fly zone, and supposedly these UFOs came up beside him and guided him in. Yeah, it's an interesting
That's
story.
the origin of the Hollow Earth. That's the first we ever heard of that. Yeah. Guided him into the Hollow Earth, talked to him, showed him all the advancements that they have.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep. That was the very first story that ever came out about Hollow Earth.
See, everything's hollow. We don't even know. We got Hollow Earth, Hollow Moon.
Well, I'll tell you, it can't be hollow and flat. So,
well, and some people say I have a hollow head. Look at that. Everything's hollow around here.
Everything's hollow. The moon's hollow. We're hollow. I mean, to some degree, the Earth is hollow, but maybe not that large hollow.
I mean, there's been entire civilizations that's lived underneath the Earth.
Yeah.
For thousands of years. They found an entire city. Where was that? They found that city. They found an entire city that had, what was they said? It went up to, I forget how many hundreds of feet down, but like they had cities underneath the ground. And every place they had like entire walkways like we would have here on the surface.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
underneath
the ground.
That's not hard to imagine at all. Like that's something that if you found a good spot, why not live down under the Earth?
Why not?
You're not going to have to shovel snow.
Correct. You do not have to shovel snow. That's correct. And on top of that, the weather's going to, relatively stay the same.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that drastically different.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty stable.
Very stable.
Food might be somewhat of a problem, but, you can go outside when you need to.
Apparently, this civilization that lived there figured out how to grow food. They only grew food that didn't require as much sunlight or something. They would have had to have. I've not researched it, but
yeah,
they lived underneath there for like 1,000 years or something. They found the equivalent of 1,000 years, which is crazy to me.
I mean, there's animals that do too, and they're eating something. So it's definitely viable. And there's lots of stories about civilizations we don't know about living underground. Like, what was it? The Green Children of Woolpit. You must have heard of that one before.
Yes.
Yes,
Correct.
supposedly they came from an underground.
Well, they said there's a story about Bigfoot that the Big Feet people were aggressive before. And the way we survived was by living underground.
Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting.
Because supposedly they were significantly faster. They had so many different things, and that's how we survived. They equivalated Bigfoot and Neanderthals to that from what are they called? The Nephilim.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you read the biblical account, they said the Nephilim was having relations with human women and was creating these offspring children. And that's what they were saying, was that these Bigfoot creatures was coming in, was killing all the males, and then keeping the women for themselves is what they. So we went underground because then it was one way in, one way out, versus living out in the open where you could get attacked from any side.
Yeah, I think we briefly went into that before, but not in this context.
It's very interesting.
So.
We might do a story on that, but again, who's to say there's not a civilization underneath the moon?
No, well, I mean, like I said earlier, megastructures are a thing that scientists theorize about. We could have one in our own backyard.
Now, you mentioned megastructure. Our very next section is going to go along that line. Do you want to hear what that is?
Actually, I'm probably more interested in this than any other part. Yes, I do. It's Moonfall. It's Moonfall.
The spaceship moon theory, also known as the Vassin S.H. Cherbakov theory, presents one of the most captivating and unconventional ideas about our moon. First proposed in the 1970s by two Soviet scientists, Mikhail Vassin and Alexander S.H. Cherbakov, this theory takes us on a journey beyond the boundaries of conventional science into the realms of extraordinary speculation. Imagine for a moment that the moon we see in the night sky is not a natural satellite, but a colossal spaceship, a titanic structure of unknown origin. According to Vassin and S.H. Cherbakov, this theory emerged from the various anomalies and unexplained phenomena associated with the moon. They speculated that it could be a hollowed-out planetoid, engineered by a technologically advanced civilization far surpassing our own capabilities. The spaceship moon theory posits that the moon's peculiar characteristics, its unusual seismic echoes, the shallow craters despite significant meteorite impacts, and the density discrepancies are not naturally occurring. Instead, these features could be the result of the moon being an artificial construct, perhaps a fully operational spaceship or a kind of cosmic ark designed and placed in Earth's orbit by extraterrestrial beings. Proponents of this theory often point to the age-old question of why the moon's craters are relatively uniform in depth, regardless of their diameter. They suggest that beneath the surface lies a solid metallic hull impervious to impacts. Furthermore, the theory also attempts to explain the ringing phenomenon observed during the Apollo missions when the moon reverberated like a bell after being struck by a spent lunar module. The idea of the moon as an alien construct also ties into various ancient myths and legends from around the world, which speak of celestial beings and gods with a connection to the moon. These stories are sometimes interpreted by proponents of the theory as historical accounts of extraterrestrial activity or as allegories for the moon's artificial nature. The spaceship moon theory, while lacking empirical evidence and largely dismissed by the scientific community, continues to intrigue and inspire. It challenges us to ponder the possibilities of advanced civilizations, the origins of celestial bodies, and the mysteries of the cosmos. In the vast expanse of space, this theory stands as a testament to human imagination and our eternal quest to understand the unknown.
That last point, I'm just going to bring that up first before we go on to anything. There are a ton of legends and mythologies of people being taken up to the moon and into a palace on the moon where they meet creators or people who are responsible for making things work properly in the celestial bodies. and then returned later.
Correct.
That's interesting. I
Makes
like
you
that.
think.
It does. It does. Like, how would they explain it other than the terms that they used back then? Like,
It'd be like someone bringing technology to us that we've never seen and we try to explain it. It's impossible.
yeah, we'd have to use things that people would understand today. Like, it's when you're trying to describe how something tastes, you're like, it tastes like chicken, or it tastes like ketchup or something. You know, you have to use frames of reference to do it. So back in those days, they'd be like, yeah, these guys took me in a silvery chariot. They took me up to the moon. We went inside the palace, inside the moon. I met the people who operate the celestial bodies, the moon.
Right.
And then they brought me back. Man.
Correct.
Telling that in a modern way, it would be, I was abducted by aliens. I was taken to a moon base. I met the people who operate the moon, and they brought me back. Right? That's how we tell it today.
Correct.
Yeah, that's fun.
It's definitely fun.
It's fun. It's moonfall.
But again, it makes you think because it all fits, right? When we talk about them, the crater impacts. Why is all the depths relatively the same, regardless of the size of the crater? That's
really compelling, and I'd not heard that before. That's very compelling and thought-provoking.
And then you add to that, and if you think about it, why would it reverberate like a bell and be cavernous, yet those impacts occur and they don't go very much further than the depth that it is? That doesn't make sense.
They never collapse a cavern or anything like that.
Mm-mm. And you would think
that's
that
interesting. That's interesting. I'm very into this being real. I don't know if I can completely convince myself that it is, but I want really badly for it to be. I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
It makes perfect sense. Listen, like I said at the beginning of this, I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
I have zero clue what the answer is, but I know just enough to know that I don't know and nobody else knows either.
Yeah.
100%. No one can tell me 100%, regardless of what it is. But it's very curious.
It's very appealing to me to have a mind-blowing mystery that would change how I think about everything. Literally in our backyard, to a place that it's in the realm of possibility that during my lifetime, we may be able to visit commercially.
Think about just this in general. And this is the things that I will stay awake late at night trying to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us are made up of atoms. Everything that we look at is made of atoms.
Mm-hmm.
If you could separate those atoms, I could take a can and I could put my body through a can just by maneuvering those atoms. But the fact that you can stabilize atoms to create anything, and the fact that what I'm looking at is not the object, it's the light bouncing off of these atoms.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that blows my mind when I think about it, because everything is just created of the same things. There's nothing that is made of me that differs from this can, with the exception of how certain molecules and atoms are arranged.
Yep, just arrangement and speed. That's all. The only difference there is.
That's why they say that they believe eventually that people will be able to either transcend time or transcend distance by being able to maneuver the atom placement. That's the only thing they can't never figure out. In fact, there's that story, man. What's that guy's name? I totally want to do a podcast on it, even if you know it. Madman? What's his name? Is it Madman? The guy that made the time machine. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know. Time machine, I don't know.
The guy that was
sure.
fascinated with the high voltage, and
he's not the guy that was making things that would levitate stuff and drop it and no.
This guy started stealing these things like you would put on power poles to increase the capacitors.
Yeah.
He started stealing them.
Oh.
And he got high voltage areas. And what he was trying to figure out was basically he had this theory and idea that he could build this. It wasn't a time machine. It was literally something else I think he was trying to build. And out of curiosity, he threw something in and it disappeared.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, holy smokes, like, what did I create here? And then while he's standing there, like 20 seconds later, 30 seconds later, he hears pop, 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 pop. And he looks and it was the thing that fell. It fell back onto the ground.
Huh.
And eventually the story goes on, but it was an Art Bell episode. That's why I know this guy.
Oh, I love Art Bell.
I was listening to an Art Bell episode after you told me about Art Bell, and that was one of the things he was covering. And he was talking to this guy, and then Art Bell and a whole bunch of his listeners gave this guy funding to create this machine. He created it. He went inside of it and disappeared.
And never returned, or?
He returned like 15 years later and found Art Bell.
Man, yeah, you got to do an episode on that. That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You know what? Maybe that's what we'll do. Don't look it up. I'll do an episode on that here soon. Super interesting. It was an Art Bell. I ran into it when I ran into Art Bell. I wonder if I can use Art Bell's things. You think I can use his stuff? Is that free use, you think?
There's a certain amount of anything that you can use. So we'll have to look into it a little more. But just out and out copying big chunks, probably not.
Well, I know with fair use, as long as you can change it, you can use it. It's got to be changed.
I think you can use 13 seconds unaltered clips as well. I think that's the rule.
With nothing on it, though. What I'm saying is if we're talking over it or using an inside narration, you can extend past that.
Yeah. We better look into the rules of that.
Oh, for sure.
But I think we could.
It'd be cool. It'd be cool if I could use some of that Art Bell clip, though, because I found it. Like, I watched it. Or listened to it, I guess.
Did someone take over his show after he passed? I feel like there's another guy doing it now, but...
It very well could be. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I never kept up on that.
This was like a case that went on for like 10, 15 years with Art Bell.
Oh, yeah. Well...
Because he called in.
There's another guy who kept calling into Art Bell for years and years, and it's a guy in the desert who had a bottomless pit, apparently, that you could throw stuff into and strange events would occur around it. And
yeah, they started throwing animals in there or something, right?
Yeah, and lowering things down and
and
that's
never
interesting
reached
too.
the bottom.
Yeah.
We'll have to do an episode on that.
And we got to do like the greatest of Art Bell or something like that.
We really need to.
Yeah, greatest hits.
But it really does go back to make you think. In a case like this one, it's very possible that there's something to the moon that we just don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the next section is probably one of my favorites.
Okay.
It's called the simulation theory. This is the last theory that we have, and then we've got the closing part of it. Do you want to hear my favorite one?
I do.
The simulation theory is a pretty wild idea that suggests everything we know, including the moon, might be part of a giant computer program. It's like thinking of our whole world as a really advanced video game. In this theory, the moon isn't just floating in space because of gravity. It's placed there on purpose by whoever is running this giant simulation. Think about it this way. The moon is just the right size to cover the sun during an eclipse, and it always shows us the same side. Plus, sometimes it kind of vibrates weirdly when something hits it. Under this simulation theory, these quirks of the moon might not be natural. Instead, they could be like little mistakes or special effects in the simulation. This theory even suggests that the moon might have a special job in this program we call reality. It could be there to help keep Earth's weather stable or to affect how living things on Earth behave, all because that's what the program needs it to do. Now, this is more of a thought experiment than a science fact. It's a way to think about the moon and our whole universe in a totally different way. It mixes science with ideas from philosophy and technology to make us question what's really real.
I like looking at that like a video game.
That's why I put it in there. Because obviously we both have video game backgrounds. You're on the creation. I'm on the playing side.
Right.
But if you think about it, like playing games like Ark, like you can run around with spears and stuff the entire time. But as you advance in the game, you need to put certain components in certain areas to get a different result. What if we're in a simulation and they had to put the moon there so that we could evolve to what we are today?
The moon could be the camera in a video game.
It could.
It could be watching from that point. Also, in video games, something that's interesting that I think most people realize now, sometimes there's areas that you can't access, and they're not areas that are some hidden secret for you. It's like if there's a bad guy chasing you and he only appears at a certain time, sometimes he's hidden in that room that you can't get to so that they can move him to where he needs to be quickly. Right?
Yes.
So maybe the moon's got all the stuff that we're not, that's like occasional events queued up inside it, and then they just teleport it where it needs to be seen at different times.
Which very well could be.
Could be. Simulation could be anything.
That's half the fun. It's half the fun. With simulation, the world's really fake. It's facade. The moon is fake and facade. Everything has a reason for being there, but we're basically like The Sims is the best way to put it. Yeah. But we wouldn't know any different because we've been created to believe this.
Right. We literally can't believe otherwise unless it's part of what we're supposed to eventually achieve.
Right.
Yeah. But a good purpose is, and like you said earlier, we're doing this now. We're creating AIs to discover things faster than we can discover them. Another civilization could create us to do the grunt work of making discoveries, because there can be millions of us. Maybe there's only 100,000 of them. They put us all the work to this, billions of us, and we just go at it.
Think about it. No aliens ever had any sexual parts. What if they can't reproduce?
Probably real depressed.
Really stressed out.
Real stressed out. They're real high strung.
Oh, they're real high strung, boys. Listen.
That's why all that probing's going on.
It could be. Like,
sorry, I didn't mean to derail an actual good thought. Sorry.
But that's the thing. We don't know what the logic and what the reason is.
Yeah.
That's what kind of makes you lean back.
There could be a limited amount of them, very limited.
And that's what makes it go back to us being like crops. They planted a whole bunch of us to get to the point to where we can create something to advance them. We're just a crop.
Yeah. Which I'm okay with.
I mean, I'm fine with it. It's fine.
Yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of people would be like, I'm more than just a crop. I'm like, well, it doesn't matter what you are. You're having a life and it matters to other people. What do you care if you're a crop to an alien? Just live your best life and don't hurt people.
Correct. That's all it is. There's nothing else to it. There was a lot of other theories that I didn't put in there. There was one that was super fun, but I'm like, I don't believe it at all. But it was basically, long story short, it was Moon was a battleground for aliens. And what would happen is kind of the equivalent of like Predator.
Okay. They go hunting there.
They would pull, but with advanced weaponry. So they say that's why the craters are there. And that's why there's no atmosphere, because atomic weaponry was used, which would explain all the nuclear stuff there.
That's fun to think about, but I don't think that's the thing.
Unrealistic. That's why I didn't put it there, but it's fun to talk about.
Yeah. Like I said before, there can be things that aren't true, but they're fun to talk about.
Yeah. They're fun to talk about. That was definitely one that was on the fun to talk about thing. Yeah. I'm at least going to bring it up just because it's fun.
Yeah.
But I don't know. My goal in this entire thing was to make people sit back and go, like, that's weird.
Yeah. You achieved it.
That's all
I've come a long way since the beginning of the episode. In fact, I think I'm changing my hashtag from hashtag the moon is real to hashtag I don't know about the moon.
That's all I can ask for.
Yeah. No, this was a lot of fun. I love these thought experiment ones because, I'm not 100% convinced that there's anything up with the moon, but I really wish there was.
Well, and we do so many that's actually story driven. There's none of these like deep dives into the science of it, but like from episode 2, when we had that conversation and you pretty much looked at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, one day we will do a moon episode.
I knew it would happen eventually. I'm glad, though, that there was time in between because there were some things that I had responses to that when we first talked about it, I was just like, well, I don't know about that. So I think we had a better discussion on it this time. So,
for sure.
I'm at the middle of the football field with you, I think. So you did a good job.
Well, I got one more segment left that just closes it all down. Let's listen to that, and then we'll finish it all up, and then we'll get you kids back on the bus.
As we conclude our lunar exploration, traversing through the realms of science, mythology, and speculation, we are left with a profound sense of wonder about our moon. Our journey has taken us across a landscape of theories, from the scientific to the fantastical, each painting a different picture of our celestial companion. From the scientific riddles of its formation and strange features to the ancient myths that see it as a powerful deity, the moon has always been a source of mystery and fascination. As we gaze up at the moon, shining in our night sky, it's a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the small part we play in it. The moon's silent presence urges us to keep questioning, to keep exploring, and to keep dreaming about the wonders of the cosmos. It stands as a testament to the human spirit's unending quest for knowledge, a celestial beacon that has guided and inspired us through the ages. In the end, the moon's true nature, whether a natural satellite with a unique history or something more mysterious, remains a profound secret, one that continues to captivate scientists, poets, and dreamers alike. As we close this chapter of our lunar exploration, let us carry forward the awe and curiosity it has instilled in us, ever mindful of the endless mysteries waiting to be unraveled in the starlit canvas of the night.
Bam!
That's just a chef's kiss on you.
Yeah, this was so much fun. You really, really have to watch Moonfall now, though.
Yeah, I need to. I don't know why I haven't, to be honest. I wonder if it's not uncommon for me to be busy doing something and Jess will watch something.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just background noise. Like, I don't pay any attention to it. I'm curious if she's watched that while I've been up there and I didn't even know it. It's a movie, though. It's not a series.
It's just a movie.
Gotcha, okay.
Honestly, like, I'm not joking. I've never met anyone else who liked it, but I loved it. And I don't know if people are going to want to comment and say, Nick, you're crazy, you have terrible taste, or if maybe there's just one other person out there who's going to be like, I liked it too. You know, that's all I need, really.
That's all you need. Just
so I want you to watch it.
Maybe I'll try to watch it.
Yeah,
maybe I'll try to watch it and just see what I think of it.
It's a just fun adventure.
If anything, just for funsies.
Yeah, it's just a fun adventure. Like, they don't make a lot of those adventure movies nowadays. No. Like, it's cool.
They don't.
People got to take it as it is. Like,
there's people that hated that movie, First Contact. Is that what it was called?
Is that the one where they're trying to communicate with them?
Yeah, people hated that movie, and I love that.
I like that
That's
too.
Like one of my favorite movies.
You know, I think
movie.
they didn't understand it because that was kind of a thinker movie.
Really? I didn't think it was a thinker movie.
Oh, for the average public, it is. Just linguistics. People don't even know what linguistics is. They think it's a kind of pasta.
Not our viewers.
No,
all of our viewers know
viewers
exactly
are
what that is.
spectacular.
Super smart. That's why you're here. Listen,
Yeah.
you could have been watching like a reality TV show or something.
Yeah. Why? Why though?
Yeah, why?
This
That's
is
crazy.
reality. This is deceptive reality TV.
It's deceptive reality. We got to use that analogy twice a day.
I know. We're really rocking that self-promotion.
What do you guys think the moon is? That's what I want to know. Tell us in the comments down below. Is it a natural forming satellite? And if you think it is, which one of the three is it that we've proven couldn't be? And if you think it's not, I mean, there's some other stuff that I didn't cover. Earth's second moon theory. That was kind of a weird one. That was a fringe theory one, so I didn't put that one in there. One of them was the moon is a conscious entity. I didn't put that one in there because that was a pretty heavy stretch too.
Yeah, I know another story about living planets and their horror stories called Hellstar Ramina. Very good story, but completely unbelievable.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Those ones I'm like, this thing's already 28 or 24 minutes long. I can't keep everything.
Yeah. We'd be here till next Monday.
Yeah, be here till next Monday. That's right, doggone it. But thanks for everyone to stop by. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Thanks for coming back to the second parter. We're obviously going to close it out here. Wherever you're listening to your podcast at, definitely hit us up. Give us that doggone 5-star rating.
Yeah.
Let us know how we did.
Yeah. We want to hear from you.
And if there's a story that we've not covered that you want to hear, let us know in the comments down below. We want to know what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll talk about it here.
Yeah, we've not heard of everything. Like we'd love suggestions.
There's no way. Correct. I think there's only really been one or two stories that Nick and I have known the other person's story as we went into it.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how many stories are out there.
It's a big world out there. Big world.
It's a big world. But thanks for everyone stopping by, y'all doggone superstars. Till we see you in the next podcast. Goodbye.
See you later on the moon.